You're not going to miss this. ARK Invest. After Tesla's epic autonomy event, We Robot, the unveiling of the two-seater dedicated Robotaxi, the Cybercab, plus the Robovan, and a massive update on the Optimus humanoid robot. Featuring Tasha Keeney, who previously held the title of Director of Research on Autonomous Technology and Robotics, speaking to the current holder of that title, Sam Kouris. This is going to be good. Two actual experts on autonomy and robotics.
What a week. The future has changed in just a week. We've got Robotaxi and SpaceX achievements, unveilings. You were there with Kathy and Brett. So maybe we'll just start off. Everyone's kind of heard high level thoughts, but maybe you can share what was missed if you were just watching the webcast as opposed to being there in person.
Yeah, well, first I'll point everyone towards, we have a newsletter piece on this. I wrote a blog right before the event, kind of detailing what our thoughts have been, which is really like an amalgamation of what we've kind of learned and gathered over the years, but I think still highly relevant for like their future Robotaxi launch. I think that, what did people miss? I mean, I do have a couple points to make around like kind of some things I think that just weren't picked up well in general that you didn't have to miss with the recording, but I feel like were overlooked. But
now, I don't want to jump the gun here. Yes, I do. I'm going to jump the gun. I think she's probably going to mention autonomy next year in Model 3s and Model Ys. Most people ignored. Possibly how soon the dedicated Robotaxi actually enters production. A little over 12 months from now, maybe at most sort of 15 months, e.g. sometime in 2026. The massive progress with the Optimus humanoid robot and some of the numbers, including potential cost per mile of the Cybercab and the Robovan. Obviously, I'm guessing here, but let's see what Tasha has to say.
But first, I mean, I think being there that, you really got a sense of excitement from the FSD team, from engineers, from the designers working at Tesla surrounding this event. I think, one, they're all people that like clearly believe in the mission and seem genuinely excited to see what our reactions would be. And also we're like really thoughtful in terms of just looking for feedback for people, from people at the event. I mean, the major thing is that Kathy and I rode in the Cybercab around the Warner Brothers studio lot. And so, first, like I'll point it out, for full autonomy, it's a lot more difficult to make something work on public roads than it is in a closed circuit setting. That said, I mean, this is a new vehicle. There's no steering wheel, no pedals, and it works, right? So I think that that's an achievement that I feel like wasn't necessarily maybe as recognized as it should be.
Now, she does have a point. Tesla had roughly 20 of these things, fully decked out in the Tesla sensor suite, optical cameras, the FSD computer, running their full self-driving AI. They had no incidents during many hundreds, if not a few thousand trips on site. Obviously, public roads a little different, but we've already seen what these vehicles can do via the 3 and Y, running the same software on public roads. We're seeing many intervention-free drives. Tesla's clearly serious about this product. No steering wheel, no pedals. They've unveiled the thing. But still, most people seem very skeptical about the timeline or the potential. So she does have a point. This is a big moment that people seem to ignore.
I mean, the fact that they can do this in a closed circuit setting, it's like, okay, it's like another step to go on public roads, but it's like basically a prototype vehicle that they were able to accomplish this with. And I think that that's meaningful.
It is pretty incredible, not just on the Cybercab front, but even with Optimus. It shows how good Tesla has become at manufacturing, right? It's like spin up 50 plus Cybercabs as prototypes and Optimus bots that, any other startup out there would take
years,
a fair amount of time, right? It's like to even get to that level. But then what do you think people missed in the presentation, data point wise?
So first I'll point out, so it was 20 Cybercabs, and then the rest was actually, I don't know if it was Model X and Model Y. I only saw Model Y vehicles there, but so these are existing Tesla cars. So you don't we didn't sit in the front seat of the car. We sat in the passenger seat and behind, that did within this closed circuit lot drive fully autonomously. So it proves that they can do this on the rest of their vehicle lineup as well, which I actually think is really meaningful. What people missed, which you could have caught during the live presentation, was, previously Tesla in their in the autopilot day, which is now a number of years ago, they had talked about price per mile. And I believe they said something around like $1.50. I forget exactly what the benchmark was, but the price that they gave this most current, at this recent event was a lot lower than what they've said in the past. Okay, so Elon said that at scale, it could cost Tesla about 20 cents per mile to offer Robotaxi service, and then with taxes and other fees, to the consumer, it would be more like 30 to 40 cents per mile. Again, I think that's at scale. They do not have to charge that price at first because you simply just have to undercut Uber.
So, yep, I did predict that she'd mention the cost per mile. It is a big deal, and at scale, it's going to change everything. Importantly, though, not only will Tesla not need to dramatically undercut companies like Uber initially, but I actually think Tesla will be able to, I'm not saying they will, but they would be able to, if they wanted, charge a massive premium just for the novelty of being in a Tesla, and B, importantly, an autonomous Tesla vehicle. Think about the first areas these launch. The number of nerds, tech enthusiasts, Tesla fanboys and fangirls who would just want to get in this thing and try it. So initially, in theory, Tesla could charge absurd cost per mile. I don't think they will, but they could. But to Tasha's point, even if Tesla were just to match current prices of a company like Uber, Lyft, typical taxi, they don't have the massive cost of a driver, meaning they have fat profit margins even early on. They don't need to massively undercut this service.
But why is it so disruptive? Okay, well, Uber in Western markets is around $2 per mile. Driving your personal car in the US on average is about 70 cents per mile. And actually our associate Akash just refreshed this work. So great job, Akash. And so when you lower the price per mile, both below ride hail and of driving a personal car, you expand the ride hail market far past what we see it as today for human-driven ride hail. So Uber and Didi, this is like hundreds of billions in terms of market value. A Robotaxi could make this like 10 trillion plus in market value if you look at the global market for miles traveled, because at that point, you convince people to forego personal car purchases. And in urban markets, this is what we think will be the dominant form of transportation, say, in the next decade.
So just to quickly summarize Tasha's key point here, at scale, these things will be meaningfully more affordable to use than personally owning a vehicle. Not only more convenient, don't have to take it in for servicing, park it in a garage, just when you need it, it's there, and when you don't, it's not. It'll be meaningfully cheaper than taxis, Ubers, and even owning your own vehicle. We are in for a massive disruption here. This is not just going to supplement the existing taxi Uber Lyft business. It's going to disrupt the very notion of transportation, what it means.
So this is something we've been talking about for years, but it's just coming to fruition now. And the exciting part is that it's still in really early days. So Waymo's proved that it's possible. But ultimately, we think that Tesla is the company that is better set up to really scale this type of effort.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then on that front, and I think, just hearing you say that, it's like, okay, we're very confident in an autonomous future. And it's like, if Waymo can do it, we think Tesla can do it. But there is a case where you think Tesla can do it, but Waymo can't do it at the same scale. Can you talk about why that might be the case?
Well, Waymo was first to launch, so let's give them credit for that. And the service works. So right now, if you're in San Francisco, LA, and Phoenix, I know they're launching in Austin. I believe they've announced a couple of other cities for testing. You can get in a car today. Some of these are like gated access, so not all of them are available to anyone when you immediately sign up. But so I've ridden in a Waymo car in 2 cities now. And the service works, right? It does take slightly longer than an Uber to get, but it's a smooth ride. And after, you get in, and after like the initial amazement of, wow, there's no one in the driver's seat, you kind of quickly forget about it. And you can see how any other passenger would just like be looking at their phone the whole time. Of course, I'm like so excited about it that I'm constantly looking out the front and the side windows.
So I can see where this is going. I mean, if you're a regular viewer, you know exactly what's coming. But Tasha's pointing out, yes, Waymo was first to launch the service. Credit where it's due. They are operating in very small pockets in a few cities. Cool story. Excellent. There's a big but coming though. And that's scale and a generalized solution. Waymo has something that's brittle and won't scale rapidly, and they have massive costs, over $100,000 to put the vehicles on roads. You have to pre-map in HD. I've been over this whole thing. This is the exact point where most analysts on Wall Street turn off their brain. See, Waymo's already got a service. They're ahead of Tesla, the end. Tesla will only ever be able to join the party and take a similarly sized slice of the autonomy pie, because what Tesla's doing is exactly the same to Waymo, plus they're behind because that's where the analysts turn their brains off. But here comes the big but.
But it works. So the way that Waymo has done this is they have chosen a much more complicated sensor suite than Tesla. So the knock against Tesla that everyone likes to make is, okay, they're just using cameras. It's a vision-only system. That's impossible to solve full autonomy. We don't believe that that's true. It's a much harder problem to solve. So Waymo is using LiDAR, radar, and a whole suite of sensors plus cameras. And then, the car is basically having to do the job of deciding, okay, which sensor am I going to trust at this moment? And LiDAR is a system of lasers that gives you a 3D point cloud of what the world looks like. So potentially, this is more accurate than cameras, potentially, because you have to infer with a camera, how far away something is, whereas a LiDAR is a direct measurement of it. But the reality is that, a Waymo car ran into a telephone pole, right? So clearly, this system isn't perfect. But if you wanted to launch first, this is probably the way to do it, to use this more complicated sensor set. But in order to scale, Waymo is using, so often with LiDAR, you use high definition maps. You map the area that you want to launch in, and then you have this version of base truth that the car can then check back to in terms of, okay, what's new that wasn't here before that might give me a little bit of information to tell me about what type of obstacle or non-obstacle that I'm looking at here. So that's one additional step. Tesla does not use HD maps, but also, on top of that, sensor suite technology, Tesla just is a manufacturing company. Waymo has to partner with companies like Hyundai and Zeekr, and has to convince them to produce these vehicles and buy these vehicles. Whereas Tesla, they're just coming off the lot for Tesla, right?
And importantly, oh, by the way, I called it, right? The big but was coming, but scale, pre-mapping, blah, blah, blah. I just want to add to Tasha's point. Not only is Tesla pumping these vehicles off production lines, they're selling them to willing customers who are paying money, and Tesla's making a fat profit to put these vehicles on roads to train the software. It's wild. Talk about a 200 IQ business decision. Let me ask at a high level, which of these business models, just on the face of it, makes more sense if you're trying to solve the same problem? Pay other companies a fuckload of money to make you a product that costs you all in well over $100,000 to put on roads, and then have to pay engineers to train the software? Or make an extremely compelling product that you sell to consumers who are willing to buy it. You make a fat multi-$1,000 profit on every vehicle sold, and then the customers, many of them are willing to actually train the software for you for free. Which of these models do you think makes more sense? I rest my case.
Tesla also already has an existing database that is much larger than Waymo. So the last reported number that we have for Waymo's fleet is 700 vehicles. Could be bigger now, but it was 700. Tesla has millions of cars on the road. So we estimate that they're collecting about 5 million miles a day just in FSD, compared to about 70,000 on Waymo's fleet. That's our estimate. So that just gives you an example of the scale and the pace at which they're collecting this data, which really matters for corner cases and for getting those last steps to full autonomy right.
And I think some other tidbits from the event that were interesting. There was a post on X saying that maybe some of the engineers there said they were hoping to get to 5.5 miles per kilowatt hour, which would be amazing efficiency and somewhat, pretty much exactly in line with what we had modeled, important for uptime.
I'd just like to take a moment to highly encourage Sam next time when pointing out that ARC absolutely fucking nailed it to be a little bit more brash and obnoxious about it. Because when you call it, you got to pat yourself on the back loudly because it triggers a lot of people. No, for real, credit where it's due. Good job, ARC. Nailed their prediction.
And potential size of the battery. And just, to your point, Tesla's manufacturing, I think they said roughly $30,000 or under $30,000 for the cost of it. Mm-hmm. If it has that efficiency, depending on the range they want, the cost could actually be much lower than that. What are your takes? What do you think of the doors? Some people look at them and say, okay, this doesn't make sense for a city. Do you think, this is just prototype and it's cool? Or do you think, we'll have those type of doors come launch?
Yeah, well, let's dig into it. What do you think are the points that, people are making in terms of why it doesn't make sense?
Honestly, the answer is there's no valid points. It's just a lot of small brainers demonstrating their small brain. Sorry, not sorry. These are just the facts. You really don't need to be a genius, or maybe you do, to understand that this has a huge opening for ingress and egress, easy to get in and out of. That's the reason. It's a vehicle to transport people. Think about people who are a little bit immobile, morbidly obese, elderly. The things you want in a dedicated vehicle, forgetting about efficiency and all that kind of bullshit, okay? You want a massive trunk for storage, because people taking these things may have suitcases, luggage, items, toys, whatever it is. Plus, you want to make it really easy to get in and out. That's the point. The end. Now, there's a nice side effect. It looks pretty cool and novel. I mean, how badass does this look, by the way? Context. Compared to this butt-ass ugly Waymo vehicle, what a fucking joke. Okay, case closed. The reason for the doors doing this is to make it easy for people to get in and out of the vehicle, because lots of people are going to be getting in and out of the vehicle.
I mean, I think it's like, why does it not make sense? It seems like it goes pretty wide. And it's like, if you're in an urban setting, you don't want to block the side, clip the lane, something like that. It's like the Model X.
So to Sam's point here, it's possible that these doors, when fully open, may protrude a little tiny bit more than a typical vehicle door. Not a whole lot though. Looks can be deceiving. But importantly, these vehicles most of the time are going to be picking people up and dropping them off, door to door. No pun intended. If this was a vehicle that people would personally be using and driving to pick up groceries, to park in a car parking lot next to other cars in a parking lot and then stay parked and have to get in and out, different story. But these are cybercabs, autonomous vehicles. The car park's dead. Forget that idea. It doesn't even exist anymore. Who needs a car park when you have autonomous vehicles everywhere? You don't. You just drop people off at the very entrance to the store, the shop, whatever, right? Pick them up the same place. GG.
You know, the complicated Falcon door is so you can be in a tight environment. The Cybercab, you know, seemed like it took up a fair amount of space.
Yeah, there is some like horizontal plus vertical movement with the doors, and I'm sure you can see that from the photos. You know, what we've talked about internally is one, like the X has to get out of parking spots, but theoretically, if the Cybercab is just for robotaxis, you don't necessarily, when you pick up a passenger at least, so when you actually have to open the doors, you don't have to necessarily be in a parking spot. Like you could drive the car out of that tight space to get to the passenger and get the passenger, you know, maybe walk a few feet, etc. I mean, the other thing, like, I don't know.
Well, what a huge shock. Tasha Keeney said literally the exact same fucking thing that I did.
When I think about New York City, and this is kind of just like anecdotal in my guess, when I look at the kind of wingspan, if you will, I mean, when I open the door to a vehicle to get out of it, I don't know that it's significantly like, you know, more kind of penetrating into the lane space than a regular door would be. Because a regular door just opens horizontally, right? At least this has some vertical movement. So like, I would imagine that it's actually possible to make that even like a smaller envelope than a typical door would be. And I mean, the other thing is like with bikers and stuff like that, you know.
That's right. This way, instead of flipping over their handlebars, they'll get clotheslined backwards.
Well, it's like to me, I just think of a regular door opened at its full capacity, and that actually seems more dangerous than this for those types of other road users.
And then maybe as we round out this topic, I feel like there's huge difference, right? Tesla typically hosts two different types of events. They host, you know, Battery Day, Autonomy Day, and then they host more entertaining showman product unveils. It seemed like the audience or Wall Street wanted a Battery Day type event, and this was a product unveil. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, we knew that this was going to be a product unveil, and that's like a really important distinction. They don't unveil new products at the events that tend to have like a ton of slides and data and information, and they tend to separate those. So we knew that this was a product unveil. Like, I'll give it to, you know, some of the people that I think wanted more info. A robotaxi, just like in itself, is a little bit more complicated than the typical product. In that, like, you know, there's like a whole software system that has to be behind it, right? It's not just the car itself. But I think that for a product launch, I don't feel like this was actually, you know, more sparse on information than any of the previous ones. You know, they did have a couple key slides, like they talked about the price of the car. You know, we found out that they're planning to offer this to consumers, which is why they would want to build hype around the vehicle. And in fact, I think that could incentivize these third parties to form that then own the fleets of Teslas, because we think long term, not all the vehicles in the robotaxi fleet will be on Tesla's balance sheet. They will be owned and maintained by third parties. So they, you know, they're getting that going and probably want to get people excited about starting that kind of business. So, you know, like, would I have wanted additional information? I always want more data, right? But I guess like I wasn't, you know, as disappointed as like the street reaction would suggest. And like furthermore, I'll say that we also saw Uber stock move pretty significantly on this event, and I think that's absolutely ridiculous when you look again at the market opportunity that we talked about in terms of human ride hail versus robotaxis. I mean, it's like, yes, they overlap, but it's not the same market at all. It's such a larger opportunity that I don't think that Uber will be as competitive as like a wholly owned player like Tesla will be anytime soon.
All right, so then let's move on to
For a minute there, I thought she was going to say, I think Uber's completely and utterly fucked. But of course, just because she's thinking it doesn't mean she's going to say it. Tasha said a lot of stuff I agree with. And I also just want to close reminding everybody that ARK Invest's current 5-year Tesla fair valuation, which is comprised roughly 90% on profits from Autonomy, is $2,600 per share. Tesla stock, as I record this, is about 220. Seems like typical investors remain rather skeptical on Tesla's timing and or potential when it comes to autonomy. I, on the other hand, am still buying with every spare cent. Want more content? Early access? A bunch of perks? Click the links in the pinned comment. AG1 is awesome. I've been taking it daily now for more than 3 years. It's a great way to fill in nutritional gaps. It's packed full of vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients, plus has prebiotics, probiotics, and adaptogens to improve gut health, regularity, and help your body handle stress. I'm always looking for an edge to help me feel and perform my best, which is why I haven't missed a day of AG1 for more than 3 years. Just try it and see how you feel. Click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR and get yourself a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 and 5 travel packs. This is what viewers of the channel had to say after trying AG1. I feel like I have a lot more energy since I started on AG1. Just got my AG1 in the mail. Legit feeling the effects after day 3. 3 months ago, I started AG1 and have been enjoying the evenness of alertness and energy that lasts the day. I just started the wife on it too. Are you convinced yet? I mean, hey, it's worth trying, right? Click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR, or I can keep going. This viewer, after about a month on AG1, definitely a lack of fatigue in the afternoon. Pleasant side effect is that my coffee intake has imploded and is almost down to 0. One more? Yeah, why not? I honestly feel younger and will be continuing to use AG1. This stuff really is crazy good. I didn't think it would be, but this stuff is awesome. It really is what everyone is saying. One more? Don't mind if I do. I've just received my 3rd month supply. I've drank it every day. I have so much energy throughout most of the day. I'm productive, started a new business, started socializing, refurbished a boat. It's no coincidence. Thank you for your persistence, your integrity, and your insights. Now look, these are not my words. These are not my testimonials. This is what you guys and girls are saying. Maybe it's 100% placebo effect. But even if that's the case, I think it's money well spent. Click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR and get yourself a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 and 5 travel packs.